Hey, good morning. Um, January 28th, and Chambers is reflecting from Acts 26 again. It is the story that Paul is telling King Agrippa, the story of his conversion. And the kind of the central theme is my own will. Again, very common with Chambers, but it's interesting. I was thinking as I was reading this, there's a song from the, I want to say 60s probably, maybe I'm wrong, but Frank Sinatra, that was very popular and still it resonates, especially with Americans. It resonates, called "I Did It My Way," and it kind of reaches this crescendo. I did it my way, and I think a lot of people really relish in that idea, that independent spirit, and Chambers is really challenging that here. So he Paul is talking to Agrippa, and he was talking about the his zealousness for persecuting the believers, the followers of the way, as they would call it back in that day, and when Jesus arrested him, and he Chambers says, he talks about persecuting Jesus. Okay, so that's where it comes. Saul, Saul, why persecutest thou me? Is this translation, Acts 26:14. Why are you persecuting me? And and Chambers, and this is, I was struggling with this actually, in all honesty, as I was preparing to hit the record button. But Chambers basically says that we can also be guilty of persecuting Jesus, and but we can also prevent Jesus being persecuted. That's a tough. I don't know. That's a weird. It's kind of a weird concept for me. But anyway, we'll go through it real quick, and I'll tell you where I ended up. But well, Chambers says, whenever we are obstinate and self-willed and set upon our own ambitions, we are hurting Jesus. Every time we stand on our own rights and insist that this is what we intend to do, we are persecuting Jesus. And obviously, it's Saul's. Saul had his own thoughts about what the true way was. He was a follower of the law. He was a Pharisee of Pharisees. Um, he truly saw himself as a purifier of the church as he was persecuting these followers of Jesus. But onto this thought about us actually being able to persecute Jesus. And in the second part of this study, Chambers, in the second paragraph, all I do ought to be founded on a perfect oneness with him, not on a self-willed determination to be godly. This is interesting too, because this is also kind of a Western tendency. It's just to grit our teeth, and we're even going through the spiritual disciplines right now, and with the young adult Bible study, and you got to be careful not to just say, yeah, we're just gonna grit our teeth and do the hard things, and while that's kind of a maybe even a proper understanding of what discipline is, it doesn't quite capture what we need to do to be godly. Because to be godly, we need to be one with Him, and to do that, we need to submit as much as we kind of grit our teeth. We need to do both, really. Um, but this will mean that I can be easily put on, easily overreached, easily ignored. But if I submit to it for His sake, I prevent Jesus Christ from being persecuted. And so that concept that he says, if we become one with him, especially in his sufferings, that people are going to take advantage of us, but that all keeps Jesus from being persecuted. Now, here's what I would say. What I came to is this thought that, okay, if I'm not submitting my own will, I am compromising the gospel, right? That's what was happening with Paul. He was pushing back against the gospel. And then I thought, well, pushing back against the gospel is pushing back against Jesus. And if I'm pushing against Jesus, then I guess this concept that I am persecuting Jesus, because Paul says, I mean, who can persecute Jesus? He's the Almighty. But Paul says, Jesus said to him, why are you persecuting me? And so I think, as we if if we desire our own will instead of submitting it, we are pushing back against the gospel that says he did it all, right? And when we push it back against the gospel, we push against Jesus. And maybe we'll talk about kicking against the goads at some point. But anyway, I'm going to leave you with that. That's where I came to. And so this idea of persecuting Jesus, it's a tough one to kind of wrap your head around. But it makes sense when you kind of when you break it down like that. Have a great day.